Now, you probably heard that although these AMD reproductions are really, really awesome, which they really, really are, and I can attest to that, things aren't going to fit perfectly when you first put it in. All right, here's a testament to that, all right? First things first, we got here. You can see here that the holes don't quite line up. They're about, probably about a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch out, all right? So I gotta pull this side down a little bit, so pull the top side down a little bit, make sure everything lines up in here, and then this panel up here, you can see I gotta pull this in so that everything else seats right. So I've got some shaping and some fitment to do, all righty? Additionally, once I get everything shaped up and fit up with where I want it at, I gotta go through and then start drilling out my holes for my plug welds, okay? And so that's gonna happen. Additionally, I wanna go ahead and take the insides and hit them with the weld through primer as well as the outsides here with weld through primer, because I wanna make sure I get the best welds in here, and it's gotta be as tight and as good and as clean as possible. So I've got some fitment work to work on today. Additionally, these are 2 different panels. I got one from AMD and I got one from another source. So I'm gonna hand it off to myself to let you see what the differences are. When I placed the order through AMD, they did not have both sides of the upper A-pillar post, okay? And that's this part right here. As you can see, this is the channel that goes from where it sits, let me get this around here, where it sits in this is the right side of the vehicle, so the passenger side. The cowl goes up over here, okay? Comes kind of around, right? This bolt goes welded on this side, and this covers the upper side of the A-pillar or that windshield pillar, okay? Now, what I did is I was like, well, they don't have them. Let me see if I can source it from somebody else. So I went to Year One, and I went to Classic Industries, and both of them did not have it in stock. So I was like, all right, let me check eBay, okay? And I went ahead and ordered the part through eBay, got a little bit of paid a little bit less of a price, and it's obvious that it was less of a price. Let me show you the difference here, okay? So this is the competitor, although it looks the same, okay? And as you can see, this is the other side. There are subtle differences, okay? Example, the subtle difference here, one of the big ones that stands out, is the holes that are right here, okay? I'm assuming that these have something to do for something, but I can't imagine what. Looking at my car itself and the 72, there are little rivets. I'm assuming this is a part where it takes place of the rivets themselves, okay? But these are where little rivets go that you could actually weld in on this one. No big deal, right? So I took my gauge and I was like, hey, wait a minute. One of these is a little bit heavier than the other. So I went and got my little Miller welding gauge thingy here, right here. Not welding gauge, but metal gauge thing, right? And this basically tells me, hey, how thick is the metal that I'm working with here, right? So I went ahead and stuck it on the AMD piece, okay? And so it's got little slots here that tells you what sizes it is. And it covers everything from big old 1/4 and 5/16 all the way down to about 20 gauge, right? So I stuck it on there and I saw that the AMD piece, all right on the 16, it was a little loose. The 18 didn't go quite on there, I'm assuming because the extra powder coating, okay? So there you go, there's that. And I'm assuming I did it on the flat piece, so there was no part where it was stretched or shrunk, you know, because that'll bunch the metal up, make it thicker a little bit or what have you. So I said, all right, there you go. Let me do the same thing with the other piece. And it slid really easy on the 18 and even slid in and stuck on the 20 gauge, right? So you're dealing with 20 gauge steel as opposed to 18 gauge or even 16 gauge steel here. Let's see if the 16 is, now 16's a little loose there, so it's definitely 18 gauge with the powder coating, okay? So yeah, that is definitely a difference. In other words, if you want the better part on your vehicle, go with AMD. All right, go with the guys that know. And I've had good sheet metal and seen good sheet metal from not only AMD, but from the others as well, Year One, Classic Industries, etc. So make sure you get the right piece here. Authentic MOPAR restoration from AMD. I don't see a sticker like that on the other one, all right? I'm still gonna use it, okay? But just, you know, hey, there you go. Hoo-wee, is this thing crusty, right? So here's what we got. All right, here's how I pulled this guy off. All right. I started by using the spot weld cutter, and as I was spot weld cutting, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I trying to preserve the stuff on the bottom? All right, I could easily just punch through with the drill to get these out. So I took every single spot weld that I saw, punched it, drilled it once with a small hole, a pilot hole, and then hit it with a 3/8 bit and got to where I got, as you see here. Then I hit these guys, and then I hit this guy over here, okay? Then it was a simple matter of hitting it with the air hammer to pull this off. Now for those weld points, I was telling you that it was welded in, okay? On one side, it was really easy because I was able to just to pop the welds. You can see here, the welds are right here. So that lower brace then, this is the underside of the item, okay? This is the underside. So that lower brace goes here, and I'll be able to flatten and hammer with the hammer the areas here to get those welds in this spot here welded in. You can see that's what they did from the factory. They used little welds here. They didn't use the spot weld because they couldn't get that in. It was sandwiched in. This came from Dynacorn. I ordered this off of eBay. And yeah, you can see here that obviously besides being really pristine, clean sheet metal because it's new and freshly stamped, okay, everything matches up, even down to the holes in the center here, okay? And the cool thing is that this includes both the top and the bottom already pre-assembled, okay? So how is this going to go on? Really easy, all right? You got the brackets, okay? Let me show you on the car. All right, so you'll have the cap, okay? You'll have, once I get the cap on here, the upper A-pillar post, it's going to go straight onto this piece over here, okay? That's going to be flattened out, cleaned out, what have you. Then this overlays right on top of it, and I'm simply going to replicate those spot welds. And I'm trying to decide if I want to go out and get a spot weld cutter, or not a spot weld cutter, but a spot welder, one of those Harbor Freight handheld dealies to cover this section right here. We can run now 220 in our garage, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of those. I'll either do it with the plug welds or with the spot welds. Either way, it's fine. I think the spot welder, though, will be easier. These AMD panels are no joke. Compared to something else, this fit in with relative ease here. So to take you through a couple of steps here to see where I'm at, right? As you can see, I went ahead and got these ready for plug welding. I went ahead and used my punch tool to get those ready. And then my first weld is going to be in this middle section right here. And of course, we're going to work our way down and up from the middle section. Why? Because it's easier to spread out, okay, downwards and upwards than it is to work towards the center and try to push down, okay? So I'm going to plug one and then move my grip here, plug the other, then move my grip up, so on and so forth till we get it all taken care of. But I wanted to take a quick note on a mistake that I made and how having the second car kind of helped me out so that you don't make the same mistake. What I made the mistake of was trying to scribe my line here, okay? Two different problems with this, right? One, if I do any kind of work in the area, such as use the wire wheel or try to clean up the plug or the spot welds after I get those out, there's a risk that I would lose my scribe line, which, okay, there's a risk of that. That's fine, all right? Two, okay, and you could say, okay, well, I can be really, really careful on how I do this and I make my scribe line extra deep and it'll be all right. Well, that's fine. But what if there's a difference between where the lip is here, this lip is, right, and the area over here? So the easier solution is to measure from the tip here, from the top of the rail here, to a fixed point on the side. So all I had to do was pick my fixed point, which was I used right at the edge, right? And I used, once I got that around the edge, I used my finger to make sure I was flush and so on and so forth. And I found that to be about 1 1/8 inch all the way up, all right? So as long as I maintain that 1 1/8 inch from that fixed point, I should be good. And you can do whatever. You can mark it, all right, on the side if you want to, but as long as you remember it's that 1 1/8 fixed point. Additionally, you got to make certain and be careful not to exceed where the cowl is going to fit onto over here. So you got to be really careful with that. So that means I'll have to kind of get these squished down and what have you. And of course, you want to make sure that your plates on the bottom here fix up and measure up against these holes down here. And of course, I already have those ready to be plug welded out also. But that'll be last because I want to make sure that this part, which is the part where the window holds onto, is taken care of. Now, if you're asking me, hey, Mike, what about this second section over here? Well, I got a tool for that, all right? So I picked that up the other day, and I'll show you that here shortly. But let me get this side on, and then I want to show you what I had to do to make the other side work. So this is the part from AMD, not a lot of additional work. Well, when I get the other side, yeah, I thought I was saving myself some money by getting a cheaper one because it was available, right? I should have thought about that a little bit harder. So here's where some of our key differences lie. Aside from the overall thickness of the steel, as you can see, I got this part lined up roughly where it should be. Again, it's only in a rough set. But when you come down to here, we notice a couple problems. First things first. If I were trying to force this section so that these holes are clearly visible, alrighty, it would completely throw this out of whack. So it would throw off the alignment, especially up top. And I need that to come lower. And I need this part right here to sit below where that cowl is going to sit. In other words, that lip and that ridge right there, right? Additionally, I have a problem with the gap here. That gap is pretty wide, okay? So there are two solutions to this. One, I could try to force it, all right? Cut these holes out, make them bigger. Here, make this hole bigger, which I could do, that's fine, right? But what do I do about this gap right here? That's a hard gap to kind of fill in and make it in line, especially when I start pressing down here. You can see where the holes really start kind of really getting covered, right? How big do I really want to make those holes? An alternative would be to go ahead and cut the part out here, then straight down. Okay, cut down and around at a 90-degree here, roughly about here-ish, right? And as you can see, I did a lot the other day trying to get this all formed up and fit up, and nothing would work with this part, okay? So I'm gonna end up cutting this out and around, get this part on, and then come back and weld this back here to fit everything where it needs. In other words, I'm gonna go fit this and then weld it into place, all right? And if all goes well, it should look pretty decent and such right there. And if it ends up looking ugly, then hey, it's a learning experience, and it is in that door hinge panel anyways, right? Now, others will be saying, well, wait for the stock to come in from AMD, and there's a good argument for that. I just don't know when that will happen, and I'm trying to get this battened up and this covered up before I get back to my regular job. So I'll let you guys know how it turns out.